Hello everybody, my name is Daulton Nelson and today I'd like to give my thoughts on a game I just beat. That game being Air Marty for the PC. Air Marty is a choose-your-own-adventure minigame collection, developed by Myles Jorgensen and published by Dipster Productions. If you watch my Lisa revisiting, or are familiar with the Lisa series in general, then the name Jorgensen might sound familiar. Myles Jorgensen is the brother of Lisa creator Austin Jorgensen, and just a little bit ago came out with his debut video game, Air Marty. I follow his brother Austin on Twitter, so when I saw Myles' new game in trailers and saw how wacky and crazed the art style of Air Marty would be, coupled with the idea that it would be a WarioWare-esque game with stories about the nightmares of flying, I became interested in the title. And that's exactly how Air Marty is structured. Air Marty is a string of stories sewn together, based on what result the player got in the minigame they played before. From there, you'll follow the main character of Marty, and his trials and tribulations when it comes to flying on a plane, coupled with a decent soundtrack by Myles' brother. The choose-your-own-adventure aspect of the game offers a pretty wide array of finalities to Marty's plight, with what I think is 60 or more different endings you can get in the game. Luckily, you don't have to keep going through the same story from the very beginning over again to explore different paths within the game. Myles included a continue tree, with the bubbles being images of the minigames you've played through already. In this tree, you can move around with a mini-Marty, and select wherever you want to pick up from. What's even more appreciated is that at any time, if you want to jump out of your current story tree, there's a button in the game that'll put the player right back into the continue graph. This way, if you don't like the way the events Marty is dealing with are turning out, or if you didn't get the result in a minigame you wanted to, you can quickly and conveniently go back. The only criticism I would have for this continue screen is that most of the story progression depends on whether a player won or lost a minigame, so I would have liked to see some more visual representation of that on this graph, so that I would know at a glance whether I would need to win or lose, so that I could see the story paths I haven't experienced yet. There are more reasons to explore the game's various story paths other than what I just gave. Air Marty possesses an impressive array of art styles that it likes to bounce to depending on the mood of the scene. These styles all have a slight edge to them, coming off as eccentric, and even a bit unhinged, which fits with Marty's personality. Another element of diverse content within Air Marty comes in the form of the minigames themselves. There is a lot of variety Myles presents to the player, whether it be reflex games, timed challenges, survival games, and even some stealth mixed in there. There are very few minigames that repeat themselves, so there is always something new for the player around the corner. However, looking deeper into some of the games here is where my criticisms for Air Marty start. For the most part, the minigames within Air Marty are all pretty understandable, but a select few feature rules that aren't obvious on first, second, or even a third playthrough. Take the minigame where you have to keep a glass balance while Marty is dancing, for example. Each minigame starts with a black screen that shows the goal of the game, along with the controls you'll be using. This minigame specifically uses the left and right controls. However, that's all the screen will tell you. This balancing game requires that you tap the direction opposite of where the glass is tilting, multiple times to keep it level. But I can see a lot of players trying to hold the direction, either opposite or matching. To make matters worse, the fail state of this game comes rather quickly, so players aren't given enough time to experiment with what they need to do, or even react to what they just experienced. Other minigames aren't as bad, but will still feature this lack of communication of the rules. Some minigames also feature some questionable design choices as well, featuring aspects that will still stack the deck against the player's favor. Like the minigame where you have to reach the pilot's cockpit, where the sprite representing Marty will have these wide shoulders, making his collision box wide and bulky, and thus makes him prone to collide into things and lose the game. There's also the minigame where you have to dodge storm elements like birds and lightning, with the lightning coming from the top of the screen and taking up a good amount of space. This, coupled with the lightning spawning through random number generation, makes for a less satisfying play experience. Outside of minigames, there were a few technical problems Air Marty seemed to have. The game seems to work only with a controller. I couldn't get past the main menu with my keyboard, and Air Marty's Steam store page states that it has partial controller support, so if there are keyboard controls, I couldn't figure them out. The game could also lose audio at times. This isn't a particularly common problem that I came across, but it did happen twice, and both times were when I lost a minigame. What is common is text being cut off rather frequently. Full screen mode makes the game non-understandable, and even in windowed mode, there was still text being cut in half or being cut off completely. Aside from that, I think the biggest issue with Air Marty that keeps it from becoming an engaging experience is the story itself. As I said, the story is about the hellish time Marty goes through while being on a plane. So each story path is another hardship Marty has to face before he can go on his vacation. Or at least, the vacation part seemed to be what the trailers were hinting at, because in reality, very few see Marty go towards a concrete goal. Rather, a lot of the results are based on what seems as whatever Myles could think of at the moment, as the consequences of your wins and losses are completely random scenes that seems to jump illogically to something completely unrelated to Marty being on a plane at all. Like, how does eating fish in the beginning of a run result in a wrestling storyline? Things just happen in Air Marty, and because of that, it's hard to become engaged in both the story and even the minigames. And it's a shame, because Myles does give good characterizations to his characters. Like Marty's wife is clearly a nagging monster, and Marty instantly comes off as a slightly whipped Clark Griswold type of character. In fact, there is a colorful cast of characters across the board. I just wish a better string of stories were tying them all together. Overall, I found interesting elements within Air Marty to where I would say that it isn't worth ignoring, but I also think there are definitely problems worth bringing to light here. So I'm going to give Air Marty a final score of a 3 out of 10. Air Marty has a wacky style, with wacky characters and wacky situations, with tons of variation to where you won't be bored, but there isn't much in the way of story engagement, and its minigame design could use some work. Hopefully if Myles wants to explore the Air Marty concept further, he'll look at these fields and focus on making them even better. There's plenty of room to grow here, so I'll be looking forward to his next project if he makes one. That concludes my review of Air Marty. If you like my reviews, you can like, comment, or subscribe. I also have social media links down in the description below, as well as a link to my online portfolio where you can see video game design works that I've done. And with that out of the way, please make sure to have a nice day.